What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the All Things Liverpool show with me, Anish Dogra. And yeah, it's a pretty depressing show today, I think, based on what just happened on Saturday. It's horrific. It's typical Liverpool, in fact. I shouldn't actually be that surprised because it's so Liverpool to beat the hardest team in the world, the team with the most firepower and the most money and one of the best managers in the world in Man City and put in an unbelievable performance, and then lose to not a team who are like down there in the bottom 6 or 7 teams in the league, but the worst team in the Premier League, Nottingham Forest, who had only won one match before Saturday, had lost so many games and matches in particular to their relegation rivals like Fulham and Leicester City and so many others, and they lost convincingly all those occasions. And we go there, even with our current state of injuries, fair, which is obviously a reasonable excuse, and obviously the fact it was our third match in 6 days. But even then, you just shouldn't be going to Nottingham Forest and losing that match. But so we did, and on the bright side, it gives us another reason to talk about what went wrong, what needs to change again, and hopefully what could happen against Ajax on tomorrow night, in fact, in the Champions League. So without further ado, let's get right into the match on Saturday. And going back to our last show where I was previewing this game, the Forest game, where I said that Forest had turned a bit of a corner. You know, they've drawn the last 2 matches, kept a clean sheet against Brighton. Dean Henderson was particularly good in that game. I think he made about 5 or 6 saves, and they looked a lot more resolute and a lot more difficult to beat. And that's exactly what we saw on Saturday. And it wasn't a real surprise. You know, Forest, even though they're the home team and they got a very good they got very good support, they were never going to, go toe for toe with us, and they were never going to, outplay us really, that we have. But they were good. I think we should give them a bit of credit for how they set up with that low block, with that five at the back, and the 4 in midfield, and then leaving Awonyi up top on his own to try and hold the ball up against our defense. But we just didn't do enough really to create any meaningful openings. There was one moment earlier on in the first half when Elliott picked the ball up on the right and floated one into Carvalho, who the two players who have been shining lights for us this season. I think Elliott's been fantastic, and when Carvalho has started, as you would expect from a 19-year-old, has shown some flashes of brilliance, shown a bit of inconsistency, but it's what you'd expect, and in the main, I think he's done very well. Unlucky not to score that goal. I thought his first touch was absolutely excellent, and if he's a bit more confident, if he's a bit more experienced, let's say, then he'd probably shoot on that left foot rather than go on his stronger right foot and try to put it through the keeper's legs. But it was a good moment, and for him, he'll obviously look to improve upon that in the coming games. But for the rest of the half, it was so lethargic from us. We were slow, we were apathetic, didn't make any runs in behind whatsoever, and just never looked like threatening that Forest defense. Of course, we were missing players, as I alluded to a bit earlier. Missing Thiago in midfield will always be a big blow for us. Again, something that I talked about quite extensively in previous episodes, where it was a big mistake from us to rely so much on this new iteration of this team with Thiago. Granted, he is an unbelievable player, and there's no doubt about that. He's definitely our best midfielder at the club, and probably the best passer of the ball we've had in the team since Xabi Alonso was playing for us, 10, 11 odd years ago. But when he's that injury prone, when he's that prone to, well, now getting ear infections, which has also ruled him out for tomorrow's game. He's not traveled to Ajax, which is ridiculous. So the guy is literally made of glass, which is a real shame because he is an unbelievable player for us. The way he can manipulate the ball, quick in the attack, slow play down, all of those things. So not having him in midfield was a disappointment. Fabinho in that position didn't do anything that we know Fabinho can do, whether he's burnt out, which is again a very reasonable excuse, whether he's not listening to instructions, which is again another thing that could be plausible. But he didn't offer any protection and didn't really do much going forward either. And again, that's not his role, of course. Thiago being two different players, but in terms of him and him coming into the team, because I don't think he started the last match against West Ham. He didn't offer much when he came on that time, and he didn't offer much again against Forest. Curtis Jones being given his first start of the season, again, got a few minutes against West Ham in midweek, so it was nice to see him in action for the first time from the start of this season. Did okay in moments. Again, like any player who's been out for a long time, you're quite hesitant to do things that you might have done if you were with full fitness and you were confident and you were raring to go. And there was quite a lot of slander on him on Twitter, which I felt was quite unfair. For any player to be coming up from injury after 10, 11 weeks can take its toll on no matter how good you are. We saw Diogo Jota when he came back from injury, looked a little bit rusty, and then just before he picked up that big knock against Man City, he was looking like his old self again, getting that hat-trick of assists against Rangers and the assist against Arsenal the week before, and he looked like he was building ahead of steam. So for Curtis Jones, for him to be given 90 minutes, which is great, showed some good glimpses, I felt, and covered the ground quite well. Hopefully, again, he'll be given a start tomorrow, and we'll do a bit more. But for that game against Forest, there was just nothing all over the pitch. And even then, even when we didn't look like creating any chances, we still should have won the game. And Jurgen Klopp made that point in his post-match press conference. It wasn't a game of many chances, but I don't think this is an exaggeration. But Van Dijk could have gone off the pitch with the match ball. That's absolutely no joke whatsoever. I think there was one in the first half, later on in the first half, when he tried to square it to Firmino. He was absolutely free as a bird, just put the ball on target, because how close he was to goal. He's about 6-7 yards out. And even if it's like straight at Dean Henderson, the amount of power Van Dijk can generate, we all know how big and strong he is. He'll score that chance every day of the week, no matter where he puts that ball, as long as it's on target. But instead, he opted to try and find Firmino, and it was just the wrong mistake completely. Should have went for goal, and if he did, he probably would have scored. He had another one, I think, in the second half when we were 1-0 down. Again, I think tried to put it across goal rather than going for it, and then right to the death in stoppage time in the second half. Free as a bird, 6 yards out from goal, center of the goal. It's a good save from Henderson, like he gets across relatively well from his goal, but it's also straight at him, Van Dijk's header. It's not in the corner, it's not high, and it's quite, it's a save that I'd expect Adrian to make. That's how straightforward it was for the keeper. So poor from my point of view that we didn't take advantage of our set pieces, and even more annoyingly, given how good we used to be from corners and free kicks. Looking back in the 18-19 season, I think Van Dijk got 4 or 5 from corners. Dane Lovren chipped in with a few that season. Jean Matip did as well. Same again in 1920. I think Van Dijk got 6 goals from set piece situations, and obviously the season after he didn't play, and even last season we still had one of the highest number of set piece goals, and when you're not playing well, when you're not creating clear cut chances, that's what you got to rely on. You got to rely on your second balls, your crosses in the air, and make the most of those. And if you don't, then you're looking like you'll probably drop points, or on this occasion you'll lose the match. For the goal we conceded, really sloppy again. Set piece, like just something you just don't expect from us. Even the form that we're currently in, which is obviously not fantastic, but to lose a set piece goal is very irritating. Again, defense switching off, not reacting first, and something that we're going through really. There's always the old saying, and that's the only saying you can make about just putting the work in through the training ground, but they got to, if they don't keep, but it doesn't look like much is going on really, and a lot needs to be done for the time being, at least for these next couple of weeks before the World Cup breaks up. So a disappointing result, and dare I say it, I think the biggest loss in that game after Thiago was also Darwin Núñez. Quite remarkable given the start that he's had to his Liverpool career. Obviously, had an unbelievable game against Man City in the Charity Shield, scoring one, making one. Came on against Fulham, also did the same. Then got the red card, came back, looked a bit groggy when he came back from a suspension, and then in the last couple of weeks has been unbelievable, scoring against Rangers, Arsenal, West Ham, putting a lot of good displays and being a handful for the opposition. And that's something we clearly missed on Saturday. Those runs in behind that cause so much problem, and it's not the fact that he looks like scoring every single time he makes a run in behind, but it's the fact that he makes so much space in between their goal and the 20-25 yard area, where you got players like Carvalho on the pitch and Elliott and Salah and Firmino who can use those positions and make the most of it, and then score from different kinds of angles. So not having him on Saturday was a big blow. I think he could have played if we were desperate for. It wasn't like a big injury that I guess West Ham. He came off and looked fine. I think Klopp also said that he's not completely completely ruined. He can feature if needed. But I think it was also the right call not to play him, because even without the names that we don't have, we should still be beating Nottingham Forest. It's as simple as that. So a dreadful result, one that's obviously set us back again. I still felt that even after I felt that after we beat Man City, we could have actually still been within a chance of winning the title, and I still think we can. Especially what could happen in January. I think that's the only question that remains now: what kind of business we'll do in that month. And I think there has been some strong rumors recently. I've seen James Maddison, which is quite an interesting one that would be quite peculiar, given the type of player he is. One that I feel we already have enough in that position with Firmino, with Jota, who's kind of learning that role and will be back soon. Carvalho, who I think will play in that position long term as well. But Maddison were to come in, and if that rumor were to be true, then it'll be an unbelievable signing, because he's got a lot of quality, and a player who could definitely open the defense up. And then obviously the main midfielders, the ones who can play that box to box ball winning midfielder kind of role. Moses Caicedo has been the one who's been the heaviest linked. Enzo Fernandez from Benfica, and then of course Bellingham is always going to be the long-term rumor. So it's just all about getting through these next 3 Premier League matches. We've got Leeds this Saturday, then Tottenham, then Southampton, then we got the break, and then hopefully in that month we'll get Jota back, or closer at least. Diaz will hopefully be back by then. And to those who aren't going, they'll be giving a much needed break. Salah obviously isn't going. I don't know, Firmino, if he does go to the World Cup, I don't think he'll be a main starter. So hopefully we get through this next period, get as many wins as we can, and still stay within touch of whoever is above us right now. I think actually Fulham are above us right now in the league table. That's how annoying it is. But still a lot to play for. Still a lot to go, and we'll hopefully get a good result tomorrow against Ajax, which is a really big game, purely for the fact that we can seal our qualification in the Champions League. Just looking at the table now, which I'll quickly show you. Champions League group. So just looking at it here. Ajax tomorrow night, and here we go. I'll put it up quickly. Okay, I think you should see that. Yeah, there we go. So tomorrow night against Ajax, where we have it there. So 8 o'clock kickoff in the Amsterdam Arena. I think a draw will be enough to see us qualify, and a victory will keep us within touch of Napoli. But I'm not sure if they've changed the rules again with the Champions League in terms of who finishes top spot. Because if we were to beat Ajax tomorrow, and you have to assume Napoli will absolutely hammer Rangers. I mean, just look at that Rangers. 1 goal scored, which was of course against us. 16 conceded and a negative 15 goal difference. So they are really, really bad. And it shows the standard of Scottish football, really. Obviously, there's always been that debate how Rangers and Celtic would do in the Premier League and in the Champions League. But we've seen it right there in a group where, obviously we've not been great this season. Ajax okay, but they're not the hardest team to face in Europe. And Napoli, fair enough. But yeah, Rangers, Celtic, not good sides, are they? But yeah, back on us. So a draw tomorrow will be enough to put us on 10 points, and we'll see us qualify for the round of 16. A win will, of course, put us on 12. And then going into the last match against Napoli, if the rules have been the same, where they change the head-to-head, where it's about the head-to-head record, then it would mean a 3-0 win would be needed at Anfield to finish above Napoli in the group, which would then, of course, give us top spot and mean that in the knockout stages we play second in the two legs, whoever we play against. But that's getting ahead of ourselves. Tomorrow it's all about getting the job done against Ajax, and thankfully there are a couple of players who we can choose upon. Two who obviously we can't because of the Champions League rules with the squad. That when you submit your squad, you can't really pick any more players from it. And two of those names are, of course, Naby Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain, which is, well, I think we all know where we stand on those two players. They aren't going to be Liverpool players for much longer. Ox will definitely be going next summer. Keita looks likelier to go than stay, even though for some reason Liverpool want to keep him, and I'm not quite sure why. But even still, those two players who they just haven't cut the mustard. Keita has shown glimpses. He's essentially been our Paul Pogba, as someone he's got a lot of talent. There's no doubt about that. Has got skill in him and can make it, but he's just not making it at Liverpool. So I think for him, a move back to Germany would obviously be best for him, like we're seeing with Werner right now. That's probably the level that they're at, and the level that they can, really show their best form. And then Oxlade-Chamberlain, someone who could have made it. I think we all generally believe that, given the form he showed in his debut season. But after that ACL, he's just never been the same. And it's unfortunate because ACLs are career-ending injuries. Even though you might come back, you just probably won't be the same kind of player. And that's certainly been the case with the Ox. It's unfortunate for him, but they won't be available tomorrow because of the rules. However, Konate has travelled, which is big. And again, someone I think that needs to start now. Gomez, I've spoken about him for a long time, and I've spoken about him on previous shows this season, where I've always backed him. I've always felt he can be a great centre back if he was more aggressive and more assertive on and off the ball. But he's just got that. He's got that Dejan Lovren mistake kind of in him. He might give you the odd 10 out of 10 here and there, like Gomez did against Man City. He was unbelievable, but on so many occasions he's just a bit mediocre, I think is the best way to say it, where he just doesn't do what you want. He doesn't carry the ball out how you would expect, doesn't read situations as well as you'd like. And he's good enough, I think, for us to be our fourth choice centre back, which, given the quality of defenders we do have, is no real disrespect towards him. But it's also the fact that Joel Matip is better than him, Konate is better, Van Dijk is better. So I don't expect him to see him in the starting 11 tomorrow. I do expect Konate to start. Has had that injury just before the start of the season, which was annoying to keep him out. Came back against Rangers in that 7-1 win. Looked okay. Again, a bit rusty, like you'd expect from any player who's not played for ages, but showed some good signs. Then obviously he's missed the last couple of games against City, West Ham and Forest. But I hope that he'll be available tomorrow and starting alongside Van Dijk, because for me that is the partnership. Konate has got everything that you need for him to be a top centre back: the height, the pace, physicality, defensive qualities. He's almost a reflection of Van Dijk. Probably better than Van Dijk at if you'd compare those two at their own ages. I think back when Van Dijk was in his early 20s, he was playing in Scotland, whereas Konate is playing for one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and has obviously played for another big club in Leipzig. So I expect him to play tomorrow, and I think Nunes will also definitely come back into the team. I think Firmino will be given a rest. He's played 4 matches in a row now, which, a couple of seasons ago it wouldn't have been a problem, but given how tired this squad is and how much they've gone through in the last couple of seasons, there needs to be more changes. And unfortunately, we can't make too many because of the personnel. But like I said against Forest, when you can make changes, do so. I think Robertson will also start this match. Simicast again has done well whenever he's played. I've always made this comment on previous occasions, but I don't think he'll be starting this game just because of the importance. I expect Trent to come back in, and I generally wouldn't be surprised if Fabinho isn't starting this match. I just don't think he's in the right space right now to be playing matches. Of course, if it were possible, I think it would have been a Hendo-Thiago combination in midfield, but I think on this occasion it will be Henderson-Milner. The good old Brexit midfield is back. But honestly, Milner's actually been the least of our concerns this season with his performances. Was great again against Forest, despite playing at right back. Did everything that you expect Milner to do. And if he were to play in midfield on tomorrow night, I think he'll do a more than fine job. Even though Ajax do have a lot of pace and a lot of trickery in that midfield, I think Milner's just a bit more disciplined and a bit more... I don't think energetic's the right word. I think energetic's the right word you can say about him. But I think he definitely shows he's caring a bit more than Fabinho. And I don't think Fabinho's not caring right now, but I think because of who Milner is and because the reason why he is still playing, because how well he looks after himself and how well he recovers, it just gives him the feeling that, you know, he's just more suitable for this kind of match. So I think it'll be Hendo, Milner in the midfield duo, Trent right back, Robbo left back, and then Van Dijk, Konate, and of course Alisson in goal. And then for the front four, obviously in terms of players we have now to choose from, it's not really many more than what we had in our last game. Of course, if Ox were available, I think he could have been a contender to have started this match, you know, on the left channel or on the right. But of course, he's not available. So I think it'll be Salah on the right to start, or maybe even, you know, I think we mentioned this a couple of times, a 4-2-2 where we have Elliott and Carvalho as those sort of free midfielders, you know, where they can float about in that space in between the defensive midfield positions and the two up top. And I think it'll be two positions that will suit them very well because they don't have the pace to be out and out wingers like Salah and Mane were. But they definitely got enough technical ability to play in those positions. And it also wouldn't surprise me if we went with Salah and Nunez as the two up top. I think Salah was quite isolated on Saturday. You know, he did very well against Man City, but when you're playing someone like Man City, who will always give you a lot of space to run in behind, because of how they play, it was always going to be easier for Salah to go in that match. But against Forest, where they are playing so deep and aren't giving you much space in behind, it was always going to be tougher for him to get into the match and to really cause any kind of damage. So I expect Salah to play tomorrow, and I think having Carvalho and Elliott in that team, and of course Nunez, it will give him the freedom to, you know, to kind of express himself. You know, Nunez will run the channels, he will run left, run right, run through the middle. And of course, going back to Carvalho and Elliott, they definitely have enough ability to pick a pass out, to spot a run, and to try and open that defense up. So for me, I think it'll be a 4-2-2 tomorrow with Elliott and Carvalho either side of Salah and Nunez, who will be the two strikers. And I think it'll be a team that should be enough. Van Dijk was speaking in this press conference earlier today, and it's not a game where he said, and I hope obviously his teammates echo those words, that they will be going there to get a 0-0, to get a draw. That's not the way obviously Liverpool are. You know, we always go into every match looking to win, looking to put our stamp on things. And even though in the last couple of weeks I said, you know, when we picked up a win, hopefully it'll be a confidence booster. It will turn our corner and turn our season around. And I thought we all thought that was going to happen after we beat City, Rangers, and West Ham. But then obviously we're now back to square one. But even then, you just got to win. You got to win. Try and give yourself any kind of confidence. Any win will do. And if you do that, we can rest so many players then for the Napoli match and obviously focus on the other important games that we've got coming up in the league and obviously in the Carabao Cup, where, you know, obviously we are a long way away from the league. But things like the Carabao Cup, FA Cup, even Champions League will take significance again this season and obviously give us a chance to try and win more trophies this season. So hopefully it'll be a good game tomorrow. A game without any injuries. From Ajax's point of view, I do expect them to really go at it. It is their cup final essentially because they know if they don't win, they're out, and they've got to really just go for it. Which obviously can play into our hands with the counter attack and things like that, and obviously with the pace that we could have up front. But they've got, a lot of talent in that team. One player who definitely you should keep an eye out for tomorrow is Mohamed Kudus, Ghanaian, number 10 for them. Unbelievable player. Scored, in fact, against us in the return fixture in the 2-1 win at Anfield. Did a unbelievable goal where he just took one touch, took around Van Dijk and put it into the roof of the net. Did really well against Napoli in that 6-1 defeat, believe it or not. I think he also scored in that match. Also scored against Rangers in the 4-0 win. So one for him to keep an eye on. They've of course got Premier League experience and experience in general with Daley Blind, with Dusan Tadic in that team. And they've always got some brilliant youngsters coming up. It's just it's who Ajax are. It's why they're one of the greatest clubs in Europe, because of how many brilliant players they keep on producing season in, season out. And I've no doubt there'll be some player that we may not have heard of tomorrow who will obviously relish a chance and put in a really good display. So it'll be a good game, one that will be a great contest. And speaking about that Forest game, being an away match, which is obviously the third time this season we've lost, and it's also the third time we've worn that white kit. We wore it against United, Arsenal, and now Forest, and we've lost every single time. So I'm also leaning to believe that kit might be a bit cursed. And tomorrow, I don't think we'll be wearing that. Thankfully, we will be wearing our green away third kit, which can't be any worse or bring any more bad luck than the one we do have right now. So hopefully a new kit might bring us a bit of luck, which is something we desperately need. So anyways, that is all we've got for today. I hope you've all enjoyed this latest show. We will be back again next week. Sadly, we won't have time to do a show reviewing the game tomorrow night, and then of course previewing this week's match against Leeds. But we'll be back next week to do the same essentially, and talk about any potential transfer news and obviously any more injury news, which is probably quite likely given our current situation. So anyways, thank you for tuning in. Hope you've all enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you again soon.